you ever noticed that the more you think about a painful situation, the sadder you begin to feel? Sometimes nothing around you has changed, yet your mood keeps getting worse. This happens because the human brain is not designed to replay the same negative thoughts over and over again. When we repeatedly focus on our worries, regrets, or fears, we unintentionally create emotional stress that slowly grows stronger. This habit is known as overthinking, and it is one of the most common reasons why sadness becomes deeper and lasts longer. Overthinking begins when the mind refuses to let go of a thought. Instead of thinking about a problem once and looking for a solution, the brain keeps asking the same questions repeatedly. Why did this happen? What if I made the wrong decision? What if something bad happens tomorrow? These questions continue to circle in the mind without leading to any useful answer. As a result, the brain becomes mentally tired. Yet the problem still feels unsolved. One important psychological reason behind this is that the brain often cannot clearly distinguish between a real danger and an imagined one. When you repeatedly imagine negative situations or painful memories, your brain reacts almost as if those events are happening again in the present moment. Your body may become tense, your heart may beat faster, and stress hormones can increase. Even though you are physically safe, your brain continues to behave as if it is facing a threat. Another reason sadness increases is because overthinking changes your attention. The human brain naturally pays more attention to negative experiences than positive ones, a tendency psychologists often call the negativity bias. When you overthink, this natural tendency becomes even stronger. Instead of noticing the good things happening around you, your mind keeps searching for mistakes, disappointments, and possible failures. Gradually, negative thoughts begin to dominate your thinking, making positive moments seem less important. Overthinking also traps people in the past. Instead of accepting that a situation has already happened, the mind keeps replaying it like a movie. You may remember every small detail of a conversation, every mistake you believe you made, or every opportunity you think you lost. Unfortunately, no amount of thinking can change the past. The more you replay these memories, the more emotionally painful they become, making sadness feel heavier with time. Sometimes overthinking is focused on the future instead of the past. A person starts imagining problems that have not happened yet. The mind creates endless what-if scenarios, many of which may never become reality. This constant worrying fills the brain with uncertainty and fear. Since the future is impossible to predict completely, the brain keeps searching for answers it can never fully find, causing even more frustration and emotional exhaustion. When a person overthinks, the brain stays in a constant state of mental activity. Instead of taking short breaks between stressful thoughts, it keeps analyzing the same problem repeatedly. This continuous mental effort uses a great deal of energy, leaving a person feeling mentally exhausted even if they have done very little physical work. Overthinking also affects our emotions because thoughts and feelings are closely connected. Every thought creates an emotional response. When the mind repeatedly focuses on fear, regret, guilt, or disappointment, those emotions become stronger. In other words, the brain starts practicing sadness in the same way it can practice any other habit. The more often a person repeats negative thinking, the easier it becomes for the brain to return to that pattern. Another important psychological concept is called rumination. Rumination means repeatedly thinking about the same negative event or emotion without moving toward a solution. Research has shown that rumination is linked with higher levels of sadness and emotional distress. Instead of helping the brain solve problems, it keeps the mind emotionally stuck. Overthinking can also change the way people see themselves. A person may begin believing thoughts such as, "I'm not good enough," "I always fail," or "nothing will ever get better." These thoughts may feel true, but they are often based on emotions rather than facts. When repeated again and again, they can lower self-confidence and make sadness even more intense. Another reason overthinking increases sadness is that it reduces our ability to enjoy the present moment. Imagine spending time with your family or friends while your mind is still replaying yesterday's mistake or worrying about tomorrow's problems. Physically, you are present, but mentally, you are somewhere else. This makes it difficult to enjoy positive experiences, and life begins to feel less satisfying. Overthinking also affects decision-making. The brain becomes so focused on finding the perfect answer that even simple decisions start feeling difficult. Fear of making mistakes leads to hesitation, and hesitation often creates more stress. This cycle can leave people feeling trapped, powerless, and emotionally drained. Fortunately, psychologists agree that thoughts are not facts. Just because a thought enters your mind does not mean it is true. The brain produces thousands of thoughts every day, and many of them are automatic. Learning to question negative thoughts instead of immediately believing them is one of the most effective ways to reduce overthinking. One helpful technique is to ask yourself, is there real evidence for this thought? Am I imagining the worst-case scenario? Will this thought still matter a year from now? Is this thought helping me solve the problem, or is it only making me feel worse? These simple questions can help interrupt the cycle of overthinking and bring your attention back to reality. Now, the biggest question is, how can we stop overthinking before it turns into sadness? The first step is to notice when your mind is repeating the same thought without finding a solution. Ask yourself, am I solving this problem or am I simply replaying it? If there is no new answer, it may be time to shift your attention to something more helpful. Another powerful technique is to bring your focus back to the present moment. Instead of worrying about yesterday or tomorrow, pay attention to what is happening right now. Taking a short walk, reading a book, writing your thoughts in a journal, talking to someone you trust, or practicing deep breathing can help interrupt the cycle of overthinking. It is also important to remember that you do not have to believe every thought that enters your mind. Thoughts are mental events, not facts. Many negative thoughts are based on fear, assumptions, or emotions rather than reality. Learning to question those thoughts instead of automatically accepting them can make a big difference. Another healthy habit is to take action. Overthinking keeps us stuck, but even a small positive step can help break the cycle. If there is a problem you can solve, make a simple plan and start with one small action. If the situation is beyond your control, practicing acceptance can be more helpful than endless worrying. Building healthy daily habits also protects your mental well-being. Getting enough sleep, exercising regularly, eating nutritious food, and spending time with supportive people all help your brain manage stress more effectively. These habits cannot remove every problem, but they can make it easier to handle difficult emotions. Finally, remember this: everyone overthinks sometimes. It is a normal part of being human. However, when overthinking becomes constant and starts affecting your sleep, work, relationships, or daily life, speaking with a qualified mental health professional can be an important and helpful step. So the next time you find yourself trapped in a cycle of overthinking, remember this: thinking is useful only when it leads to understanding or action. If the same thoughts keep repeating without bringing a solution, they are only draining your mental energy. Your mind is like a garden. The thoughts you water every day are the ones that grow. If you constantly feed fear, regret, and self-doubt, those emotions become stronger. But if you nurture hope, self-compassion, and realistic thinking, your mind gradually becomes calmer and more resilient. Always remind yourself that you are not your thoughts. A negative thought is simply a mental event. It is not your identity, and it is not always the truth. Learning to observe your thoughts without believing every single one is a powerful psychological skill. Life will always have challenges, but peace comes from learning which thoughts deserve your attention and which ones should be allowed to pass. The less energy you give to unnecessary overthinking, the more space your mind has for happiness, creativity, and emotional balance. If this video helped you understand the psychology behind overthinking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more psychology-based videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care of your mind because it shapes the life you live. Here's one more closing paragraph you can add before the final. Thank you for watching. Reducing overthinking is a gradual process that requires patience and consistent practice. Some days will be easier than others, and that's completely normal. Every time you choose to let go of an unnecessary thought,